Hi everybody, and welcome to the second video of my chess opening survey. I wanted to start giving you guys some opening options for openings you can use to get some attacks on, club level players or somewhat lower rated players. These have even worked against high rated players in the past, as you'll see from some of my games, but I'm going to try to give you some openings that are easy to learn, have basically the same setup and same ideas for most of the positions, and that you can try to get some attacks with. And if your opponent doesn't really know what they're doing, these can be very effective. So what I'm going to show you today is the Grand Prix Attack. And I've noted it dynamic and strategic because in the positions that you can get an attack in, they're very dynamic and some tactics will be involved. But if your opponent really knows what they're doing, some of the games will be more positional. I've rated it 2 on the easy to learn scale because if you just know the general setups and basically what you're trying to achieve, that's probably enough to start playing these right away. And then I've noted some risk involved because anytime you are going for a kingside attack and you might sacrifice a pawn or put all your pieces on the wing of the king, you do risk, if that doesn't work, a counterattack coming against you, and your position might just be worse. So let's look at the main idea here. The main starting position of the Grand Prix is going to be e4 and c5. So black plays the Sicilian against you, and like I said in my last video, the main move for the Sicilian is knight to f3. But one way to avoid all of that theory, which is tons and tons of theory that you have to learn, is to play what's called an anti-Sicilian. And the Grand Prix attack is one of them. I'll go through all of them in my opening survey. There's several of them. And so that starts with knight c3. So you're avoiding all the main lines of the Sicilian. And then typically black will play, knight c6, d6, or g6 or something. And then you're going to play f4. And I'm just going to show you the main setup here. And basically you're going to put your bishop on c4, attacking this pawn. And then you're going to, again, these are just, kind of made up moves here just to show you. But basically you're going to bring your queen over to the king side here. You're going to open up this bishop here on this diagonal. And then you're going to possibly sacrifice a pawn here to get your bishop open here. This is, again, just some examples. And then you're actually going to go ahead and play your bishop to h6. And one thing to note about these positions, this is called a fianchetto, when somebody brings their bishop out to this square and then they castle into this position. So this bishop here is fianchettoed. And if you can get rid of that bishop in this type of position, oftentimes it's a weakness for the king side. So this would be a good trade-off. But basically you're going to, let's just make a random move here. You're going to try to get into this position here. And the knight is attacking this h7 pawn. And the knight is defending it right now. But as you can see, we've got this rook lined up here. And at some point we're going to take this pawn here and we're going to sacrifice our rook for this knight. And our queen and knight will be lined up here. So let's just say this happens and they attack our bishop. Well, I'm actually just even going to leave that here. I'm going to take this, take this, take this, take this, and then sacrifice. So for example, if the rook takes, then that leaves the queen available because the knight's protecting it to take this pawn. So that's a devastating attack. That's the general idea of what you're going to be doing. And if black doesn't really know what they're doing, it's kind of difficult to figure out how to play against that. So let me show you a couple illustrative games on that. And we're going to go new game, and I'm going to copy this this one in here. So this was actually the black side was 2400 rated player. So actually a very good player. Didn't really know what they were doing here and got in big trouble. So they got to the position through a different move order. Like I said, typically this gets from the Sicilian, but chess is a very complicated game, and you can reach positions from all sorts of moves. So we get into our main position here in the Grand Prix. And then, like I said, this is an important thing to remember. White moves his queen over to e1 so that he can transfer it over to the king side. And black is starting to move the pawns on the queen side to attack this bishop, but really he should be focusing on how is he going to defend his king side, because he probably didn't know the type of attack that was coming. So he actually moves his knight in here attacking this pawn, and white's so confident with his setup that he actually just ignores that. So black could actually take this pawn right here, but he knows that he's going to be under a big attack. So he again pushes this bishop around, and he thinks by trading off his knight for this bishop that's going to relieve some of the pressure around his king, but it really doesn't. So again, he moves his pawn storm here on the queen side attacking this knight, but white just moves the knight. He takes one move away from his attack just to get his knight out of the way. And then, as you can see, all white's pieces are coming over to the king side. Black put his queen in line with the king there, so white just takes a move out to just protect his king. And he knows that the setup that he wants is coming, and it's not going to be stoppable. So again, we get this bishop here, and we bring our knight in behind it, and we've got basically our ideal setup. And from here, black is basically toast. Once you get this position and you know what you're supposed to do, you trade, you open up this file for the rook, you trade these bishops, and then you sacrifice your rook for the knight there. Now, obviously, black could have taken this with the queen, but then, like I said, the knight and the queen are on this pawn now, and there's no longer a knight here defending it. So black tried to take with the king and try to escape, but he ends up getting checkmated in the middle of the board here. And then so one of the things that people started doing is for example, started noticing that if they the bishop was going to come here, and if they set this up with e6 and knight e7 and then played for an early d5, that really disrupted white's plan, and black already has kind of a preferable position here. So what white started to do, led by probably the top GM that plays this quite a bit, is Gawain Jones. And I'll show you an interesting idea that he had in this line. And again, the guy he's playing is about 2200, so a master level player. And what Gawain does here is he is getting towards our normal setup, but he doesn't put the bishop on c4. He puts it on b5, and he checks the king. And then when black puts his bishop in the way, he actually just slides his bishop back. And you might think, okay, well, black just developed his piece for no reason, but it actually gets in the way of this d file here, and it makes it harder for black to make this d5 pawn push. And Gawain actually goes straight for the win here with this pawn sacrifice f5, and he knows that black's king is still in the center. He's going to get his bishop out, his queen out, his knight, and his rook on this open file, and that's going to be plenty of compensation. And black has a tough position here right now. So again, knight g5, the rook's bearing down on this file. This light squares are very weak from both angles. So black plays knight e5 to try to defend f7 and attack the bishop. But Gawain realizes he can just play queen h5 here, because if black takes this bishop here at c4, this is queen takes f7 checkmate. So this was actually a big mistake here. Queen c8. I think black wanted to defend this e6 pawn again and also give his king an escape route. But that allows white to get his pawn in here to f6. And so black has to do something about this. Black thought that he could attack white's bishop, but white is just going to give him that bishop, and understanding that his attack is way too strong here. And so Gawain actually takes this rook here, knowing that when this rook takes back, he's going to take this knight with check, and either black has to move his king and give away this rook, or he has to put the rook in the way, pinned onto his king. And basically this is a hopeless position now. So the rook is pinned on the king. White is threatening knight d6 check, forking the king and the queen. He's going to bring his bishop out and his rook out if he needs to, if the game's not over even before then. So black actually resigned in this position. And so, you'll get a lot of attacks like that if you play this, and just kind of remember that general setup. And so one of the reasons I also said that this can be kind of strategic is if black really knows what he's doing, he's not going to let you get that easy attack. But those positions I think are still okay for white. And so this is a position like if black really knows what he's doing, he can play something like this. And so he'll put the knight on d4, attacking the bishop. And white usually just lets him take that because he's got his pawns like he wants them. He's castled. He's got two pieces developed. And so he's doing fine here. And then this is a typical type of position that you might see if black has experienced the Grand Prix Attach several times and they kind of have a book line that they like to play against it. And so as you can see, this is going to be more of a maneuvering type of game. And I'll leave it here. As you can see, white's doing fine, but we're maneuvering now. He's got two nice pawns in the center, and his knights are pretty well placed. But black is doing okay here, too. He's going to be able to get his bishop out and bring his knight into here. And it's just, a maneuvering type of a game. So, like I said, this is pretty easy to learn, something you can practice online a lot and just kind of get used to it. Remember to bring your queen over to the king side and try to trade off this dark squared bishop and keep an eye on this f5 push with your rook behind it. It's a lot of fun to play, and I think you'll win a lot of games with it. So let me know if you have any questions on it, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks, and have a great day.